Hi there, Christoph here. I'm going to share a little bit here about how I do AI-supported coding. Some people call it vibe coding. I don't necessarily call it vibe coding. I feel like vibe coding is more when you don't even understand what the code is. For me, it's more I actually understand it and I just use AI very effectively to write the majority of the code, but I still kind of very much understand what's going on. I understand the architecture, I understand how the data flows and all of this type of stuff, and I make very specific kind of guided changes. It's just that the AI helps me to kind of to do the manual labor in a way. Anyways, no one cares probably about that distinction, but I'll hop right in here. So this is the current app and the area that I'm looking at right now. It's actually kind of a dev related. So as a user, you kind of see all of your transactions here, but we have this handy X-ray here. And one of the things right now, for some reason, one of my VTXOs is stuck in a locked state. All right. And as kind of a developer, someone who just kind of works with beta software right now, I want to have some extra options in order to kind of deal with problems. In the end, this is not something end users will see, but it's helpful during development. So I have this VTXO here. It has been locked for a very long time. I want to have some options to either exit it or refresh it, handful of those things. And I have this handy detail view here. And I think that's a good placement for those options. Let's take a look at Xcode. Here on the left, you kind of see the project explorer with all the files. Here you see the code, and here you see the preview using mock data. So that's why I want to add those options. The functionality is already there. Functionality starts basically here. There's a Bark Wallet protocol. I have, for example, refresh VTXO, exit VTXO, and then send on chain. So one of them is going to refresh VTXO, is going to send the VTXO to the server, and I'll just get a new one. Exit is almost like a unilateral exit type of thing. And then send on chain is just, it's going to use the basic send function that the server provides to get funds from my VTXO into a UTXO. So all these should be helpful here as a dev. Then we have those implemented in Bark Wallet here. This calls the actual commands. And then everything is accessed via the wallet manager. That's kind of the central entry point. And that one sends it out to the wallet operations service, which is in here. No, not in settings. Services is what I'm looking for. Wallet operations service is here. And that does some deduplication and some other stuff. But now let's take a look at this VTXO detail view. So what I typically do is, let's see, I have this running file here open, and this is kind of where I start writing my prompts. You can see a bunch of examples here. Because this project is getting a little bit bigger, I always try to give the AI lots of context and very narrow it down. So I'll just say, let's look at this particular functionality. It is currently in this state. What I want to achieve is this. Make sure to consider this and that. Relevant files are probably, this one and this one and this one. And then very importantly, something that I pretty much add to everything is, every prompt is come up with a plan to implement this. Backwards compatibility is not important. This is an early prototype. This is a macOS app. Don't code yet. So backwards compatibility is very relevant right now because otherwise it always tries to make these complex structures, and at this point in the project it doesn't matter. Then it has a very strong tendency to always try to write code, UI code for iOS. And there are some differences between macOS and iOS, so it doesn't actually work when I compile it then. And then come up with a plan and don't code yet because I first want to review what it's actually doing. And sometimes it also has suggestions, things I haven't considered. Sometimes things get a little bit bigger, and then I'll ask it to come up with individual phases that can then be written one by one or executed one by one. And it just helps, with the whole thing. So here I started, probably you can see this, preparing my prompt. I'll add some lines here. So I'd like to add 3 options to VTXO detail view. Note that these are meant for developers, not for end users. The options are refresh, and here I'm already referencing the functions it should call. This helps narrow the scope so it doesn't have to try to understand the whole project and then kind of figure out where things are. So I try to give these very specific references here. And then, of course, I need to come up with a plan. And then the thing that this is meant for developers, I'm hoping that it would then maybe do like more subtle options that are maybe at the bottom of the screen or so, and not try to be maybe so sensitive to maybe end users who don't really understand what a VTXO even is and all of this stuff. But let's see. I'm gonna take this prompt here. I do select the view where I want this to be. I also try to usually select like a relevant line. Sometimes I'll say, I want to do this in line so and so. Like I said, if I don't narrow things down, it can sometimes just be way too broad and try to do way too much. So let's start writing here. And this is where I usually have some time and do something else. I'll just let it rattle here because at first it's going to try to like make sense of my prompt and try to gather a whole bunch of context from from other files. I also had it write extensive documentation for itself that it can reference. And that needs to be, at this stage where a lot of things are changing all the time, that needs to be updated as well. But the goal is that it doesn't always have to, go through tons of lines of code, but it can reference a simple document to then work with that architecture for consistency and all of this stuff. Okay, let's see what I've come up with. It's looking at stuff. Great, it has all the information. So I've done the information gathering stage. Here's the plan, UI placement and design. Since this is a macOS app with developer-focused actions, I recommend adding a toolbar with a refresh button, calls this one, send on chain, calls this one, exit button, calls this one. Use the toolbar modifier. I'm not sure if toolbar is the best here. It probably doesn't realize that it's kind of shown in this 3-panel view. If you put these labels on here, the buttons are probably going to take up all of this space, but we'll see. Okay, this is the data it uses, sent on chain. Okay, looks pretty good. State management. Yep, we do need the environment to access the wallet manager. That's kind of how it works throughout the whole application. State variables for loading states, alert, error handling, sheet dialog. Why does the sheet dialog need user input? Destination address, I guess. Okay, so here actually this is something where, so typically with send on chain, you can choose as an end user, I want to be able to choose which address, and maybe I want to add a specific amount. In our scenario here, I want just grab a wallet from the wallet itself, and I want the whole amount. So I'm going to tell it to adjust that. Feedback and error handling, okay, fine. Shows confirmation dialog before executing, potentially destructive. I'm not sure I need that because this is for devs. They should know what they're doing. And I assuming, we're on Signet here. Create a separate view. Okay, I don't want that. Exit might change the VTXO state. So refreshing or dismissing the view after, that kind of makes sense because it changes what's being shown. Developer only. Okay, it's already asking me questions here to clarify. Okay, let's answer those. So 1, send the full VTXO amount to a wallet address. There's no need for a user interface with inputs. Keep it simple. This is for dev. This is for occasional dev usage. And we can always expand it later. We can make it more elaborate later if needed. Okay. 2, should there be confirmation dialogues? No need for confirmation dialogues. 3, yes, automatically refresh. This view is shown in the third panel of a, okay, hold on, let me see. In the third panel of in the detail panel of a navigation split view. In the detail panel of a navigation split view. If it gets too complex to refresh, don't worry about it for now. Yeah, so if it starts looking into parent files and trying to set up, refresh functions across different files, I'm just like, let's keep it simple for now. And, we'll get to it later. Let's see. Number 4. What do you recommend? What patterns do you see in similar files? So similar files here in the wallet view, things we also have in this third panel are, for example, the contact detail view that are also in the detail of a navigation split view. The detail panel of a navigation split view. Yeah. Then I'm going to go back to my file, VTXO detail view for context. Okay. Then update your plan. Okay. So you can tell it's not just like, I'll just tell it like add options and ta-da. It's very much kind of a planning phase that covers, I guess, user considerations, layout considerations, architecture, data flow, bunch of different things. And, that's why I said I don't necessarily feel like this is vibe coding as it's maybe, as many people see it right now, as the hype is. So now it's gathering more context because I did reference did I actually use wallet view? Anyways, I may have used an incorrect reference here. But let's see, access pattern for wallet manager. Okay. Great. UI add a toolbar, refresh and onchain. I guess we could change that later. Refresh button, calls wallet manager. So, and onchain, input hardcode. Hardcode, a developer address. It still hasn't gotten that one yet. For the send onchain button, you can get an address via wallet manager. Get it from here. Onchain. Get onchain address. This is what I'm looking for. Onchain address. Okay, we want to fix that one. Floating state, no user input needed. And make sure to use the full VTX amount. Follow the pattern, print errors to console. It loves the emoji prefixes, right? Okay, we're not worrying about refresh. Okay. Send onchain address input. Okay. Do not ask the user for input. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I guess the other thing is feel free to wrap this into a separate view in order to keep VTXO detail view simple. And I guess one thing is going to make sure is I think I have some changes I made here. Okay. Those were visual changes to the VTXO UTXO display in data view and few extra functions in Arke wallet protocol. Okay, no idea what this one came from. Breakpoints 2. I'm going to worry about that later. Stage of changes. I'm going to commit everything because that way I have a clean slate, and if whatever I'm asking the AI to do right now goes wrong, I can still, easily undo it. Very important. All right. More adjustments here. See what it says now. Final updated plan. We create a separate file. Great. Simple view contains all the logic and state management. Great. We get the wallet manager. That's the centralized spot to call functions. We track our activity. Error handling, toolbar modifier, button styling. All right. Yes. Implement it. Cool. Let's see what it actually comes up with. Seems like it's a decent plan, but we shall see. Let's see how this magic here unfolds. I always assume that I do have to make a bunch of changes afterwards, particularly when it's UI related stuff, because often it comes up with pretty hideous interface options. Okay, it added here the VTXO developers actions view. Maybe we can take it's this one here. Maybe we can it already wrote all this stuff. So here we have our refresh button is refreshing. That's where it shows a loader. Send on-chain button, same thing. When you click it, it sends this. There's also a loader. Okay, action modifiers calls our wallet manager. It's great. Okay, it's getting an on-chain address. Still working on stuff. Oh no, it's actually done. Then here prints out the results, handle exit. Okay, and then we have a preview here. Preview is not working because there's an error here. Let's kind of see. Wallet manager has no member get on-chain address. Let's see. How is on-chain address being used? Address service. So we definitely have the function in the wallet. It may not be exposed in the wallet manager. The address service actually. I have perform load addresses. Okay, so I think what actually happens is that we have an address service that kind of keeps our on-chain and Arke addresses at hand, then for use in the UI. So it's not separate individual calls, but there's kind of an address service. So the receive view probably also address service. Let's see, where's this address? No. Where's this address service being used? It's all over here. It's all over here. Contact model, service container, contract address service. Are we actually handling this in the receive view? Hello section. Balance type menu. Address content section. Address display view. See here, manager.onchain address. Gotcha. The wallet manager directly has the onchain address. Let's take a look. Onchain address. Yep, there we go. And it forwards it from the address service. Problem solved. Okay, so we can basically just say wallet manager.onchain address. Nice. So now we can solve this. We can just do this. But how about we do this? I want to make sure there's an error in line 95. I think you can just use wallet manager.onchain address. Please take a look. Yeah, so oftentimes I'll just do it myself, but here, we have this try, wait, and like, okay, you just kind of figure it out. I don't want to have to think about it. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, it just straight out uses that property. So, all right. So let's see. So we have these kind of three buttons here. That looks pretty terrible. It's gigantic. Let's make the scale effect to 0.2. That was for the refresh. Still makes it giant. Okay. Okay. Just gonna. Okay. The progress view in line 29 is huge compared to the label. The scale effect seems to only make it smaller visually, but not in the layout. Is that right? So I'll just, yeah, it's a very narrow little thing. Yeah, that's the thing. The scale effect is something that's calculated after the layout is calculated. So for layout calculations, it uses the original size, and then it renders it smaller. Okay, so control size small. Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of control size. Yeah, see, that's better. Still don't like kind of how things change there, but control size. Okay, already did it for all three of them. Great. Now we can actually look at our VTXO detail view. So now in the toolbar, we have this toolbar item group, the VTXO developer actions view, the one we just created. So refresh, send onchain, exit. Now let's execute this code. Here we are. Let's go to X-ray. By the way, in VTXOs, right? Let's look at this one. Expires in 18 minutes. Now we have these three options here. I'd actually prefer, it's kind of bulky up here. And they're kind of developer options that you ideally don't really often use. I already have refresh and get new ones here. So I don't know, I might move those down. Don't super like it. And you notice how these options here look very different than if we look at the actual VTXO developer actions view in the canvas. Here they are rendered as straight out buttons. Now here they're placed in the toolbar as a toolbar item group. And so the way buttons are rendered is contextual in Swift. So just something good to know. So let's just say, let's refresh this one. And I guess we can just kind of see here in in the logs here, see what happens. So it's running, refresh VTXO, and then I put that VTXO ID. It's refreshing, and I think this can take quite some time. I think it's trying to add it to a new round. And there's some stuff happening. Okay. Failed to refresh VTXO. Yes, and that is syncing pending rounds, blah, blah, blah. And that is actually why this VTXO is locked here. And I haven't been able to get it unstuck. But I think that's kind of beta software testnet stuff or SIGNet stuff that you're going to have to expect. Let's clear this log and let's just try to refresh this one here. That expires in 18 minutes. And this is exactly why I want to have these three options here, because in this type of situation, I may need to try each one of them. Refresh is kind of the most harmless one. That's kind of what happens all the time in wallets. Sending on-chain is also something pretty normal. And then exit is basically kind of the, I don't know, more, yeah, I think that's basically the unilateral exit if I'm not wrong here. So it's kind of the harshest, also most expensive option here that should work in all scenarios. But, you know, good to have all three. So let's take a look. So I did refresh VTXO. It participated in a round. It connected. It synced, sending one partial VTXO, blah, blah. Xcode, blah, blah. Refreshing after transaction. Cool. And yep, we refreshed everything. And so, like I said, I did not ask it after a refresh to refresh this whole page, so it might show some stale data. So I'm just going to navigate somewhere else. When I click here, go back here, it should refresh this in 19 minutes. Yeah, so I think it added it to a round, if I understand correctly. But I don't think that process is actually done yet. So potentially it is actually just marked for a refresh. But you know, that's kind of where some of these things I'm still wrapping my head around. So it's participating in a round, right? So that's good. Refreshed successfully, that's good. Yeah, question is just then, you know, did it actually do it or not? Am I dealing with some outdated data? All of this stuff. But anyways, you know, it's not perfect, but I think the main point here was, and I'll figure this out step by step. Like I said, it's always an iterative thing. But the main thing is, you know, now there's an interface for it. I can actually try it a few times. I can see where it fails, and I can just very quickly dig into individual aspects and, you know, then improve them and make them rock solid. Like, that's the main thing. This is already a pretty good step forward. So that's it. Hopefully it was kind of interesting and showed how I usually go about things. It's been really a breeze working with Xcode and Claude 4.5 Sonnet. I think I'm using here. Basically almost all the code was written basically with the process that I just showed here, little by little. And being very deliberate, adding on in small pieces and iterating forward. So hopefully it was interesting. Let me know. Thanks.